I just pressed the Let's Go Live button, so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. Before we go ahead and get started, and I see Scott Lado's over there, he says Rob's always late. Oh gosh, I know. Today I was definitely late, a big one. There's no question about this one. And you can call me late and whatever, I know how it goes. I deserve it. It's true. I deserve it, but it looks like, is it working? It looks like it's working, which means that's great news. We can go ahead and get started. So let's finally do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gov't. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group, located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona, where you can schedule a free case evaluation by clicking the link in the description below. And today, my friends, we're talking about a country that appears to be on a precipice. That's right, a lot of issues percolating around the fruited plain. We're going to start the show today by talking about Tish James. You remember her. This is the GIF that we have conveniently loaded for us so that we can always refresh our recollection about the facial spasms, that she has repeatedly, the twitches, this, that, it's all sort of twitchy and weird. That's Letitia James. She has a big problem with Donald Trump. She's gone after him many, many times. She has filed a lawsuit many times. She wants him eliminated, and she said that he's illegitimate, which was insurrectionary language to my knowledge. But we've got that one, Letitia Tishy James. Vientica says, you're welcome for the gift. Thanks, V. Appreciate you on that one. Is that where we got that one? V's always delivering. Thank you, V. But we've got a big lawsuit to talk about. Donald Trump filed it. And apparently the New York Times said that he sort of was advised not to file this as lawyers. We'll save that for later. He was out giving an interview saying that he still doesn't think that Americans are going to stand by for an indictment if and when. I think that it is more likely a when he does get indicted. He's got some opinions on that. We're going to check in with Kellyanne Conway. Remember, she was a very important political advisor to both Donald Trump and Mike Pence. And there's an interesting clip from her where she says that she's sort of talking to both of these people. Mom and dad are mad at each other, but she talks to Trump. She talks to Pence. She loves them both. She knows they both love her, and she's just trying to sort of mend a lot of problems between the two. Very interesting. There was also an interview that took place between Byron York from the Washington Examiner and Bill Barr, former Attorney General. And I wanted to play a couple clips here because, man, it's like I hate when we're right. He is asked, are there going to be any consequences to the FBI? First of all, he says, well, their actions were catastrophic. But then, are there going to be consequences, Bill Barr? No, he says. No, there are not going to be any consequences. Oh, great. Well, we all knew that a long time ago. Thanks for finally making it known publicly. So we've got several clips from him. Before we change gears and turn over to the FAUCI Depo case, because this is also quite satisfying today. Fauci does not want to be deposed. He is science, remember, until we all realize that he's not. And he doesn't want to answer any questions about it. And so state of Missouri said, to hell with that. We're going to file a lawsuit against you people for your big tech collusion and how you misled all sorts of Americans on all sorts of issues. Back during the pandemic, Missouri filed a lawsuit and they're demanding a deposition. The judge has come out and said it is still scheduled. The government was doing everything they can. They're appealing this, taking it up. They want a writ of mandamus. They want the appeals court to come tell the lower court, reverse the deposition order. And the judge said, basically, until that happens, your deposition is scheduled. And it's going to be taking place over on November 23rd. So we'll take a look at that, certainly. Now, we have all of that. In our final segment, we're going to look over at the meltdown that's taking place right now on MSNBC. I don't really know who this guy is, but oh boy, he was out there, I think today or last night or whenever, it doesn't matter. He's saying they're going to kill your children if you don't vote for the Democrats. In other words, if you vote for the Republicans, your kids are going to just end up dead. And well, nobody wants that to happen, obviously. So we'll have to see what his basis is and why he thinks that's all realistic. Might have something to do with Barack Obama and the other Democrats who are screaming from the rooftops that by voting for certain candidates who have different policy positions, by voting for them, you are ending democracy, which is a weird concept. You can go vote to end democracy by having people who have questions about how democracy is being run. That's all the end of democracy now. So not that ideal. We've got Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's having fun with that. Barack Obama says, yeah, it's true, crime has gone up, but it was going up for a long time anyways, so he's very excited about that. And we've just got all sorts of clips from them. Biden was out last night giving a speech saying that the home insurrection that took place at Paul Pelosi's residence was analogous to the J6 insurrection, which I think is just perfect because Nancy Pelosi failed on both accounts to protect her houses. And in this incident, apparently the attacker used the same phrase, "Where's Nancy?" which is exactly what all of the MAGA FBI insurrectionist agents were saying when they were faking the insurrection. So we'll go through those clips. Biden and the White House sort of stepped in it. They posted this tweet, and then they had to delete the tweet after Twitter put a little context box under there. They were bragging about an increase in Social Security benefits to seniors. And we talked about this on one of our morning walk and talks earlier in the week. But then they had to delete the tweet because they realized, oh, it's not a good thing. The increases come about because of inflation. So if benefits are going up, that means inflation is going up. And Biden also had this very interesting prognostication. Now, if you've been around here for some time, you know that we saw back in the 2020 election, we talked all about the red mirage. Remember that little theory that they were floating? They said, hey, if on election night it looks like the Republicans are winning, don't worry about it because there's a red mirage because, there's all sorts of things that might come in, these late ballots and all that, so don't buy it. They're kind of doing that same thing here. They're saying, hey, we could be counting these ballots for a very long time and hold your horses is essentially what the president is saying. And it just feels weird, for a very competent country to be unable to accurately count your ballots on election day. So a lot of stuff to attend to. Now, if you want to be a part of the show, the place to do that is over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And I have to pause here for a minute because apparently something's going on with the chat, or I'm not real sure what's going on over there. We might have a little bit of a freeze situation. So what I'm going to do is hit a refresh on that and see if that fixes anything. So I did a refresh locals on my end, but I'm not sure if that fixed anything on your end, if you can still see me or what, but hopefully it works. While we're waiting for that, shout outs over to our Rumble crowd. We've got Cat Crap Fevers in the house. I see Nexit 2020 Dog Digger is there. We've got Hang Ski One Pick is in the house, along with Wood Dogs and many others. We've got some chats out there in the YouTube universe. I see Daniel C's over there. We have Tentacled Vesicle is there, which is an interesting phrase there. Shout out to, Locals is broken at the moment is what Viantica says, which is just great. To be a part of the show after the show, we'll go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. It'll certainly be fixed by then. And also, please don't forget, if you're out there and just happen to hear somebody who needs some help with a criminal charge in Arizona, that's what we do. That's what our law firm does. 480-787-0394. We have a mission, a passion. We're dedicated to helping good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope, not only in their cases, but beyond that in their lives. And so 480-787-0394 is the number to call. And I'm switching something over on locals. Boom. All right. So I think we've got that fixed over there. Head on over to locals. I think it's working again now. All right. So what we are going to be doing is queuing this puppy up so that we can get into the business of the day. And okay, now we're queuing it up. It's one of those technical days, isn't it? But it looks like it's working. Okay, so let's get right to it, shall we? Donald Trump files a new lawsuit against Letitia James, aka Tishy James, somebody who has a very severe case of TDS. You can see this as evidenced by her facial spasms. In this GIF that we clipped exclusively for this program, we have her saying that Trump is an illegitimate president. That's what she's mouthing. Illegitimate president. She's been ranting about him, raving about him for years. I mean, basically her entire campaign for the AG, the Attorney General of New York, has been predicated on hating Donald Trump. We've got clips. We've played clips until the end of the world. We don't need to do that again here. But that's who we're talking about. And Donald Trump is sick of it, man. He's been facing lawsuits and criminal charges, investigations all over the place from her and all other prosecutors all across America. It's disgusting. So Trump said, enough already, right? We're done dealing with this garbage. It's time to fight back. And there are some rumors out there that his attorneys were sort of advising him not to do this. You know, he had a split opinion between his counsel. We had people like Christopher Kesey, his lawyer from Florida, who we were talking about, was the prior, I think, Solicitor General down there. He had some opinions on it. Other lawyers had differing opinions, and so those other lawyers filed the lawsuit. Now, we've covered many Donald Trump lawsuits on here. Many of them have been filed and dismissed, some of them relatively quickly. And as we've talked about, one tactic, of course, that Donald Trump uses is litigation to win in court, right? Win in the court of law, get some legal benefits and legal remedies. The other is to use these as opinion pieces, essentially, in the court of public opinion. It's Donald Trump taking taking a proactive position on these cases. Rather than sitting around waiting for lawsuits to come at him, he files lawsuits back at other people. If they throw an elbow, he throws one back. It's been a pattern that we have seen repeatedly, and it changes the game a little bit. It's not so much that Donald Trump wants to win an outcome. He doesn't think he's probably going to get billions of dollars from anybody, but it still is a tool. And because he's got money and funds and teams of lawyers, he is exercising his legal tools and responding to them. So regardless of sort of, you know, the how this is being received by other people in the media, they're always going to say Donald Trump is ill-advised to do all of this stuff. This is one of the mechanisms that he uses because in many regards, he doesn't have other alternatives, right? He's not in government anymore. He doesn't have the convenience of the Biden administration to be able to just turn over to the DOJ, to the FBI, and use them to go after his political opponents. So he's got to go file a lawsuit on his own expense. But let's take a look at the complaint. Donald Trump files a lawsuit against Letitia Tishy James, New York Attorney General, in her capacity as the Attorney General of the state of New York. You see, this lawsuit is being filed out of Palm Beach County, Florida, the Civil Division, filed November 2nd, 2022. It's a complaint for declaratory and injunctive relief, meaning Trump is asking the court for a declaration just to say something, to say Letitia James is this, that, or the other. And injunctive relief, meaning they want the court to tell the other court, or tell Letitia in this case, to do something or to stop doing something, right? It's you are ordered to take some sort of action. Trump's team writes, Trump, by and through his counsel, hereby sues defendant Letitia James, individually and in her official capacity as the AG of New York. In their preliminary statement, Trump's team writes, extraordinary wrongdoing requires extraordinary relief. As set forth below, Tishy has repeatedly abused her position as the Attorney General for the state of New York. She's pursued a relentless, a pernicious, a public, unapologetic crusade against President Trump, a resident of Florida, with the stated goal of destroying him, personally, financially, and politically. Suffice it to say, these actions are contrary to the laws of both New York and Florida. Trump's lawyers say, Tishy James's war of intimidation and harassment on President Trump, his family, his business interests, and his associates is longstanding and continuing. James campaigned for Attorney General on the promise of launching investigations of Trump even before the pretext of a predicate existed. She was talking about bringing him down, taking him down, investigating him, going after Trump Tower, so on and so forth, without even any evidence, right? In criminal law, we call this sort of probable cause. Did you have any basis? Did you have any reasonable suspicion at all? No? Okay, well then you're just a partisan hack, aren't you? Since her election, she made good on those promises and established within her office a policy of intimidating and harassing President Trump whenever possible. These crusades began shortly after President Trump became president of the United States, and they have continued since his return to Palm Beach, Florida. In September 2022, as midterm elections approach, and James herself faced re-election against a Republican challenger, who's doing well, by the way, might actually beat her. James began amping up her attacks on President Trump to rev up her political base. James initiated an abusive civil enforcement action in the state of New York, calling Trump and others, saying they committed fraud on sophisticated commercial lenders, and that case is still pending. They challenged Trump's net worth, and they also submitted disclaimers. But to place this abusive claim in context, Trump's lawyers say the many assets that were owned by Trump, they carry very little debt, and they're mostly free and clear. Okay, in other words, she's making much ado about nothing. Though James's vehicle is unimpressive, her ultimate decision is staggering. Using the civil action, James seeks unprecedented oversight of President Trump's business and his financial affairs, including control over Trump's Florida revocable trust, as she grandstands in demanding $250 million of restitution, quote, for the people of New York. Trump's team says, in truth, James knows that no restitution is owed, but only seeks attention for herself and retribution against Trump. As outlined below, James's long-standing and continued bias against Trump is immediately and objectively apparent. She's even said so in her statements. She began making threats against Trump before she was even elected, at a time when she possessed no actual information or any insight into Trump's businesses. She campaigned for her position on the promise to weaponize her resources against Trump and, quote, anyone in his orbit. During her unsuccessful bid for governor, she boasted about suing him 76 times. Now up for re-election as AG, she is campaigning once again on the promise that if re-elected, she's going to continue her vitriolic and obsessive pursuit of Trump. None of these actions are proper for a state attorney general, she says. But what began as a cartoonish, thinly veiled effort to publicly malign Trump for personal gain has morphed into a plot to obtain control of a private enterprise owned by Trump in Florida. They say that Tishy James, an individual guided solely by political animus and a desire to retaliate against Trump, has been permitted to handpick the New York court state judge to help manage this case. This is supposedly because, as the Attorney General claims, sophisticated lenders and insurance companies received inflated estimates of Trump's net worth. Despite that, over the last 10 years in question, no payments were made, no issues at all throughout this entire history. James is stepping in, right? The Attorney General steps in when you have a citizen who has sort of been wronged, right? If you don't pay, you go into your gym to cancel your gym membership, and your gym's like, well, we have to call this number. It's going to take 6 months, send a letter. Then we need a DNA sample. Then we'll cancel your gym membership, right? You go to your attorney general. Your state has a law against that. They say, oh, we've got a big issue here with your business doing something bad against our citizens. And that's sort of what they're there for. This woman has sort of taken that and said, oh, perfect. I have to go out there and go sort of wage war against these problematic businesses. How about we start with Donald Trump's, even though there was no basis to investigate them in the first place? She said before she was even elected, this was going to be her entire focus. Now that sort of feels like it's a political partisan hack who's in charge of what's supposed to be a non-political, non-partisan entity that's just supposed to execute the laws. But she's not doing that at all. Trump says that's inappropriate. James purportedly brought the suit to protect these sophisticated banks and insurance companies. Okay, again, they were all represented by the finest law firms in the United States. They weren't being wronged. Trump wasn't taking advantage of them. These are million-dollar deals in huge, huge transactions. But Letitia James needs to come in here and make sure that, they have real professionals who are making sure they're not getting taken advantage of. The organization was highly underleveraged, very low debt, And so, in other words, they're saying there was no reason for any of this. This was a disaster for the out of control James. But she decided, out of hatred and scorn for Trump, that she needed to do this for the simple reason of using publicity. As a private company, nobody knew very much about the great business that then businessman Donald Trump has built, and it's now being revealed to James, much to her chagrin, saying that James thought she was going to crack open the nut and see all sorts of problematic affairs. But there's nothing wrong in there. They're under leveraged. All their debts are paid. Everything's by the book. Everything's filed neatly. All the file folders are perfectly in order. Nobody's looking for K and, it's backed by the J's or whatever. It's all a mess. You know how those file folders are. The continuing witch hunt that has haunted and targeted Donald Trump since he came down the golden escalator at Trump Tower in June of 2015. President Trump built a great and prosperous company, but nevertheless, that must be carefully, delicately, and powerfully managed. Otherwise, it's going to bring great harm to the company. So Trump says, I have to manage my reputation. I have to manage my affairs. But in furtherance of her attempts to steal, destroy, or control all things about Trump, James has become preoccupied with obtaining a copy of Trump's revocable trust, which is contained down in Florida and is governed by the Florida Constitution. James also seeks to interfere with Trump's personal property in the trust, also governed by Florida, and infringe upon his rights under the laws of Florida. In this case, Trump's team says that President Trump's request is not light. He seeks declaratory and injunctive relief against an out-of-state attorney general. Remember, this lawsuit's being filed in Florida. What jurisdiction does Florida have to say anything about Letitia James in New York? But Letitia James has malevolently targeted him because he ran for president. He's leading in all the polls, and he's probably going to run for it again. Trump comes before this court for protection from James's ongoing abuse and efforts to interfere. So Trump is saying, hey, look, I'm a citizen of Florida here. I've got Florida protections under the Constitution for the Trump revocable trust. It's all governed by the laws of the state of Florida. And I need you to protect us. Yes, I know she's an out-of-state attorney general, but she is harassing me. He's invoking the Florida laws to do that. He says that you have jurisdiction over this because the Florida statutes allow you to issue equitable remedies. We all reside in Florida. They say the court has jurisdiction, personal jurisdiction, which is a term of art in the law, over James based on her unlawful attempts to reach into Florida and exercise the powers delegated to the trustee. Okay, so in civil procedure, which is a brutal class if you're unless you're into this stuff in law school, right? We talk about jurisdiction and how does one state that has an issue with another state, what happens if two citizens in those states have problems with one another? What court has jurisdiction? Very complicated, right? What happens if somebody sues you in a different state and they say, well, you have to come into my state because you harmed me here? And you say, well, no, but I live here and you harmed me here. Well, it's a big complicated thing. So sometimes we say, well, you can't sue in either state, right? You got to take this as a domestic issue, whatever it is, all sorts of rules. But one issue is, how do you show that somebody came from out of one state into another state? In civil procedure, we talked about it like dipping a straw. Like when you were a kid, you'd connect all the straws together and reach them across the table into your brother's milkshake. And you'd be like, what's up now, punk? It's mine. You know how that, I don't know if you ever did that, but you're reaching your straw into another state all across the states. And Trump is saying that's exactly what Letitia James is doing here, saying, but look, we have a trust in Florida. She is reaching her straw from New York into our state, which is giving us jurisdiction. Since she is doing that, it's now our business. Here's what he says. The court has jurisdiction also, if you don't buy that argument, that sort of long straw argument, she seeks to exert control over real property. And so we've got some property right issues that are being issued or bubbling up as a result of her trying to get involved in Florida. They give us some more background about Letitia James. They tell us that Tishy has a long-standing feeling of animosity towards Trump. She's an outspoken political activist. She's also a member of the Democrats. She's been a public advocate for over a decade. When Trump ran in 2016, she began displaying severe animosity, which is true. You've seen that manifest itself in the facial spasms when she says illegitimate president. Let's just detour on that one. Make sure we're familiar with this. Yeah, this is what we would call serious animosity, right? That face. Look at that. Just multiple blinks, the whole thing. So that's her. Prior to President Trump's inauguration, she retweeted calls for sit-ins to protest against Trump and the nomination of Jeff Sessions. 5 days after the inauguration, she joined public protest and said, "This administration has shown its true and ugly colors, and we're not going to be silent." Over the next 6 months, she continued to publicly voice her disdain. She was already leading a die-in protest. According to her, she said, "We're all being killed by this administration." She punctuated her tweet by #resist. #resist is recognized for shorthand at fighting Trump and his supporters. She said that they wanted to make them uncomfortable and not able to rest well. Tishy's embrace of the resistance mentality was evident at the earliest days, saying that she has a relentless abuse of power for Attorney General. 10 months into Trump's term, Tishy said, quote, "I've been leading the resistance against Donald Trump in New York City, and I'll continue to do so in every way possible." When she was a public advocate, she demonstrated her willingness to use the government to go after people she disagreed with. And that has been manifest in other areas. They say that Tishy campaigned for Attorney General on a promise to target Trump. And we saw this, right? This was the whole basis of her campaign. A lot of people will get out there and they'll say, "I want to fight inflation. We're going to fix the border. We're going to put an end to endless wars, or we're going to make sure that you get good paying jobs, and we're going to make sure your kids get great educations," and all that crap. Here, what we hear from this woman is, "I'm going to go after Donald Trump because we have a lot of really vicious anti-Trumpers, evidently, in New York, and that's enough to coast her into victory." In May of 2018, Tishy declared her candidacy for Attorney General of New York. When she was a candidate, Tishy said, "taking on Donald Trump," in quote, footnote 7, that came from her Twitter account. It says, "Congrats on your victory. Looking forward to helping you to take on Donald Trump." She was congratulating AOC in that tweet. She wants to take on Donald Trump. That's great. Yeah, she was a candidate. And so that's a policy position, right? It's not about rooting out corruption. It's about taking on Donald Trump. She uses his name. Made it the focal point of her campaign, often comparing herself to Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller. He, at the time, was leading the investigation into the now debunked allegations of the Trump campaign, claiming that he was colluding with the Russians. Right, yeah, so she is about as on point as Robert Mueller, who investigated a fake hoax for years. Defendant's campaign website not only repeated derogatory and inaccurate statements about Trump and his policies, but it also stated with no evidence whatsoever that President Trump had, quote, engaged in public corruption. Where was her evidence on that? It's right there on our website. And if you think that I'm making up this Tish stuff, I'm not. It's Tish James, 2018. Okay, that's what she was doing in 2018. You see her right there. The Tishster, Tish James, right? That's her website. I didn't make it up. She wants to be called it, so we'll just keep it up. So she sent all of that stuff out. Public corruption as a candidate, had no evidence of it at all. Okay, facts not in evidence. She's just making it up. All right. Though it appears to have since been removed, the website at one time provided a link to a detailed outline of defendant's strategy for rooting out corruption, with a specifically devoted section to Trump and his families, saying investigate Trump's business. As stated in the outline, the investigation would include, without any evidence again, a review of Trump-related real estate transactions. What, like all of them? Like you just all of them just because you don't like the guy? Do you have evidence that any one of those was bad? No? Then you don't just get to review everybody's transactions. It's like, what if somebody wanted to see all your receipts to make sure you were paying your sales tax everywhere you went, every time you went to the grocery store? Well, they just want to see your receipt. I just want to see it. Did you pay it? I mean, Costco's a different story because you sort of agree to do that. You say, yes, yes, I'll be a member. Therefore, you can read my receipt. But, in other instances, it's sort of like, mind your own business. You don't have any evidence to stop me. I'm transacting legally, lawfully, and peacefully and patriotically. So leave me the hell alone. But here, she just says, oh, we're just going to go investigate them as part of her campaign, especially those where they started paying cash for properties after operating previously by borrowing money. Oh, great. Yeah, so you've actually built up a little bit of a self-funding mechanism, and that's apparently illegal? No evidence of anything. Of course, defendant had no personal knowledge about any Trump real estate transactions at the time. She was just a candidate, not anything in office. And at the time she made these statements, she had not been elected to the attorney general. She possessed no information or insight into his business other than what she had presumably seen on the media, probably MSNBC. Nonetheless, Tishy continued to shamelessly campaign on her unfounded allegations against Trump and his family in a misguided effort to garner attention and raise money. We have June 26, 2018. Defendant Tishy spoke at a protest opposing the Supreme Court decision. She told the crowd, quote, "It's critically important that we all understand that this was a result of the fact that Republicans stole the Supreme Court seat." That's Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat. Oh, Republicans stole that. "An illegitimate president," she said, "and an illegitimate member of the Supreme Court." Can you believe? Is the FBI going to raid her house for that language? I mean, I can't even believe I just said that right now. It's like I'm waiting for the helicopters to come in, guys to zip, down off the side of the building into this recording location. Holy moly. Illegitimate president, illegitimate Supreme Court. That's illegal insurrection-like language. On July 1, defendant tweeted, "New Yorkers need a fighter who will take on Donald Trump. I'll be that fighter. Join my campaign." What? On July 19th, she says, in the midst of a politically charged speech before the Bronx Democratic Party, defendant promised to use the law as a sword. Wow. To relentlessly bombard President Trump, proclaiming that no one is above the law, including this illegitimate president. Insurrectionary language. You can't say that, man. And so I look forward to going into the office of the Attorney General every day, suing him, defending your rights, and then going home. Okay, so that's it, right? You just elect people to just go, like it's like a legal political assassin to just go after somebody. And a bunch of New Yorkers, apparently, like, that's their thing. They're like, oh, perfect. Yeah, I don't really care about, my personal life or anything. I mean, I guess my personal life is Donald Trump. So I guess if I'm doing bad, I definitely want to see him do bad. And because he has sort of become this public embodiment of everything that I hate, I've attributed all of my misery into this person. I would love to see you take him down, because that's really the only thing that's going to bring me happiness, because unfortunately, it's all I've got. But apparently that's what's going on over there. Now, in what can only be construed as an attempt to threaten and intimidate President Trump, Tishy then tweeted that President Trump is, quote, "He's running out of time," and warned that she would immediately investigate him and his cronies when she took office. Defendant Tishy issued a similar threat on August 22nd, 2018. She said that President Trump, quote, "should be scared about her upcoming term when she wins." Why? Because she's going to go after him. September 10th, she vowed to stand up to Trump. And later that evening, she declared once more that, quote, she was just getting started in taking on President Trump. Of course, even when addressing Trump's role as the sitting president of the United States, James was driven by deep animosity for him personally and an obsessive denial that he had the right to hold office. Insurrection. In a troubling September 2018 video released during the primary, Tishy pledged that, quote, she would never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president. That's the facial spasm video. Illegitimate president. Here's the GIF. Illegitimate president right there. Challenge this illegitimate president right there. That's it, right? We got it timed up, synced up perfectly there. Yeah, that's her. In the very same video, defendant baselessly accused Trump of a slew of crimes, including obstruction of justice, laundering money from foreign governments. She's demanding that he becomes indicted. She promised to join with law enforcement and other attorney generals across this nation in, quote, removing this president from office. Mirroring her prior allegation, she called for Trump to be investigated, saying, and all of that was devoid of any fact or merit. But she said that the days of Donald Trump are coming to an end without any evidence, no basis at all. Running for office. On the same day, Tishy took to Twitter to double down. She reiterated her warrantless claim that Trump is an illegitimate president and promised once again to fight back against Trump if New Yorkers voted for her. As the Attorney General, defendant Tish immediately implemented her ongoing plan, therefore, of intimidation and harassment. We've got all sorts of motive. She said that this is directly connected to her run for office. She used it as a pretext to win. That's basically the only thing she could talk about. Can't really deliver much value anywhere else. Do I have good solutions for New York? Can I actually bring some law and order to the state? No. I guess we'll just go after Trump. That's the solution. And after that was the game plan, she started. Boom. On November 6, 2018, Tishy was elected as a Democrat Attorney General and immediately began implementing her plan to weaponize her office against Trump. During her victory speech, she made a solemn promise to shine a bright light. She better not say the word spotlight in here, I swear. In every dark corner of Trump's real estate holdings. Make no distinction between the holdings in New York, located in Florida, or anywhere. Okay, so she's dipping her straw into Florida. Emboldened by her election, Tishy thinks, I'm queen of New York, baby. And she began to shamelessly display the bias against Trump that she demonstrated when running for office. She publicly guaranteed the outcome of any future election investigation and claim against him. These guarantees were made before she had even established a pretext of a legal predicate for any investigation, claim, or action against Trump. For starters, Trump's team says, in an interview with a political activist and former Democratic candidate, somebody named Adina Sash, Tishy was asked if she planned to sue Trump. And she said, oh, we're definitely going to sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. He's going to know my name personally. That's a weird thing for an attorney general to say. She's going to be a pain in Trump's ass. That's a weird thing. What's her problem? Then on December 12th, during an NBC News interview given 18 days before assuming office, Tishy vowed to, quote, use every area of the law to investigate Trump and his business transactions and that of his family as well. She did not curtail her persecution of Trump and instead promised to follow anyone else in Trump's orbit. She repeatedly, publicly, proudly stated that she wanted to weaponize her office to target him. There were open threats and promises that were so appalling that even members of her own party condemned her. For example, somebody named Daniel Goldman, Democratic Party counsel, warned. He said that her statements give the appearance of an individualized political vendetta. You're not kidding me. Yeah, no kidding. Brilliant. It's essential that prosecutors maintain the neutrality and an objective point of view of fact evidence, no matter the politics. By abandoning even the pretext of neutrality, Goldman stated that Tishy went too far in allowing politics to shape her agenda. I don't mean to be... Daniel Goldman's right. He might be a Democratic lawyer, but he's right about this. She's nuts. In sum, before assuming office, Tishy promised to investigate Trump dozens of times over many months. She didn't obtain any information specific to any of this stuff before she dove in. It shows that she had no predicate. She has complete bias in the investigation. She was sworn in on January 1st, 2019. And when she was, Tishy promised to uphold the Constitution. But unfortunately, Trump's lawyers say she must have had her fingers crossed behind her back when she did so. One hand on the whatever she swears to, the other one crossed behind her back. Upon assuming her role, defendant immediately got to work making good on all of her campaign promises. They established her premeditated policy of going after Trump. And so that's why they say it leads to a special proceeding. Trump's lawyers continue. They say, 3 days after she was sworn in as Attorney General, she went on CNN and she told that she would ensure the man who's occupying the Oval Office is held accountable. Said, never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president, illegal, and investigating Trump, she said, fuels her soul. Yeah. You can see it. It's a weird, she may call it a soul, I'm not sure. On March 11th, defendant employed the authority and the vast array of resources of the Attorney General, and she formally opened an investigation into Trump. Subpoenas went out. She said that they were going to aggressively investigate him. She claimed she relied upon Michael Cohen. Remember that guy? The New Yorker from New York who says F&A guys on his Twitter account and says that everything is Donald Trump, right? He's selling a shtick. It's weird. He's like got this caricature he's created, this like New Yorker anti-Trumper. It's a weird thing. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go listen to him on his Twitter account. It's bizarre. It's like I don't buy it for a second. Defendant's claim of reliance on Cohen's testimony is pretextual, not predicate. Defendant Tishy has established her personal bias against Trump. She had more than 6 weeks in office to establish an official policy, and she openly flouted her duty to remain neutral. Instead, she disparaged Trump. She's continued to disparage Trump, and she's even floated outright lies. On April 23rd, Tishy repeated her prior unfounded allegation. She said, we have to focus on Trump and his abuses. We got to follow his money. We need to find out where he's laundered the money. After more than 3 years of formal investigation, targeted public attack, millions of dollars, thousands of hours, it is clear, says Trump's team, that neither Trump nor any of Trump's companies laundered money in any way, shape, or form. Defendant Tishy fabricated allegations out of thin air, clearly indicating that even after assuming her office and initiating investigations, her desire to pursue Trump was driven by bias, political animus, and the most severe case of Trump derangement syndrome, not facts. I'm so happy that made it into a lawsuit. I can't even tell you. Because it's true. We've been saying this for 2 years, man. Ever since we started to see Tishy. She has been spasming out all over the show. Massive case of TDS. And it's official now. It's in court documents. The most severe case of TDS, they should have said, we've ever seen in the world. But it's true, right? It is TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. This should be in the DSM-5. I mean, it's like a real thing, I think, these days. I've talked to a lot of people about this. Like, why? What happened to them? I don't know. Very strange. I don't know. It's a very, very strange phenomenon, but she's got it. With this mindset firmly established, even after the Cohen testimony, it's clear, says Trump, that any stated predicate for investigating Trump was merely a pretext. The overall goal was to harass and intimidate Trump. Her conduct continued. In July, she tweeted that she has spent her career hiding behind lawsuits, or Trump has spent his career, and she's going to vigorously fight him. 2.5 weeks later, she then served a subpoena on his organization, his children, and third parties for all sorts of information. She doesn't let up. In July 2020, she intends to sue Trump, announces that, for unlawful practices relating to the census. August 24th, she commenced a special proceeding for another case to compel compliance with subpoenas. Under her leadership, they say that she's weaponized the office, of course, which is all obviously true. Now, after Trump won the presidency and left the presidency, she got even more aggressive. She announced that on October 29th, she was going to be suing Trump. She said she sued him 76 times, but who's counting? And she's going to continue to take on Donald Trump. On December 9th, amid her poor polling numbers, she suspended her campaign for governor. Reason behind that is because nobody likes her. Said, I've come to the conclusion that I must continue my work as Attorney General. I'm running for re-election to complete the work that New Yorkers want me to do, which evidently is going after Trump and nothing else like improving their lives. By saying this, she left no doubt that she remained undeterred for her relentless pursuit of Trump. Trump's lawyers are now detailing the allegations, and this is where we see some of the claims that they're making. They say that Trump is initiating civil action in order to stop her from initiating civil actions against Donald Trump. So I want to fast forward down to here we are, counts. As a result of everything we just read, Trump is now alleging that in count 1, Tishy is violating his right to privacy and property. 2 counts in this complaint. They say Trump lives in Florida. He enjoys laws that protect his privacy, and people who invade his privacy are problematic. Constitution also provides him that benefit. Florida Constitution also does as well. And the Florida constitutional privacy protection says the following: Trump has a reasonable expectation of privacy in that revocable trust, which is what Letitia, Tishy, is trying to dip her straw into. They say that Trump's expectation of privacy is authentic. It's not based on anything like deterring public officials from gaining access. But in fact, he has a right to privacy under the Florida Constitution. It includes Florida trusts. Florida law protects Florida trusts and the right to privacy. So they say Tishy cannot demonstrate any reason, any state interests in New York, let alone a compelling one, for interfering with Trump's right to privacy, saying that her true interest is not even legitimate. It's a personal vendetta against Trump. New York as a state has no interest in gaining access to Trump's trust, and Trump has the right to protect all of that. Nevertheless, they say Trump reasonably fears that James handpicked and her justice will require Trump to disclose the terms of his trust. And if not, he'll be penalized. And so they're asking the court to do something about this. Wherefore, President Trump demands preliminary and permanent injunctive relief. They say they want James restrained. They say Tishy should not be allowed to talk about, see, obtain, disclose, or get anything regarding this revocable trust. They want a declaration saying that she's got no jurisdiction over those assets. And basically, that straw that she's trying to dip in there, she can't do that. Kick her out of it. Now, Trump realleges and reincorporates all the things we talked about. The second count that they're working on here, saying that it violates Trump's rights as a beneficiary of the trust. So it's sort of, trust and estate stuff. Not much here. They say, wherefore, Trump demands preliminary and permanent injunctive relief, making sure that James and Tishy have no capability, no authority to supplant or control the trust. Signed by Timothy Weber, Quincy Bird, over from Weber Crab, that is in St. Petersburg, Florida. Jeremy Bailey, R. Quincy Bird, Timothy Weber. Signed off on the second day of November, Donald Trump submitting this against Tishy Letitia James, one of the biggest TDSers that exists in New York, if not the East Coast, arguably the entire world. But we'll see what happens. Now, Donald Trump and, of course, Letitia, they'll have a long road on this. Letitia is very likely going to respond with, a motion to dismiss at some point. And we'll see what all that looks like. The court's going to have to battle over jurisdiction, and we'll see where it goes. But as we've talked about, a lot of this stuff, in my opinion, has never been about Donald Trump wanting to win it. He wants to make the record clear, and he wants everybody to know what a joke of an attorney general this TDS deranged person is. Now, Trump is facing other legal battles. He is, of course, facing the J6 onslaught. They have sent him a subpoena. Trump is also facing a situation in Mar-a-Lago. Is an indictment coming against Donald Trump? And what would the consequences of that be? If Trump runs for office again, would they indict him before he announces, or would they indict him after he announces? What would the consequences of that be either way? Would Americans stand for it? Trump says no.
The FBI is totally weaponized. Now they have, so January 6th was like that's just a waste. Liz Cheney, she's been totally discredited. But now they have the document hoax. The document. But you look at the last 7 or 8 presidents, look at them. They took documents. They all took documents. It's a rigged system, and it's a bad system. And I don't believe the people of this country are going to stand for it.
Are the people going to stand for it? A lot of people on Twitter and elsewhere in the media saying, well, what does that mean? Is Donald Trump encouraging another insurrection? Because they can't ever let that go. Is he saying that people not standing for it is a call to violence? That's what I saw a lot of people saying. I don't read it that way at all. I think you're allowed to say things in America about politics and about what people will and will not stand for. And I agree with him. I think that a lot of people would take a look at an indictment against him and say, this is a highly weaponized, highly partisan agency, the DOJ, which is in cahoots with the FBI, which has had a long, long litany of attacks against this president, and people would consider it to be illegitimate and they would not stand for it. They'd be very upset about it. And they would peacefully and patriotically protest and make their voices heard, and there would be repercussions for that. And I think Donald Trump is dead right. Now, in other Trump news, you remember Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne Conway was a former advisor in the Trump administration. This is an interesting question. Is there a possibility that Mike Pence and Donald Trump could ever reconcile? Could mom and dad kind of get along again? Kellyanne Conway says maybe, she said they had a pretty nasty divorce, but maybe they can set that aside and come together for America.
One more. How often do you speak with Donald Trump?
Often.
How often is often?
But I'm also a unicorn. I speak with Mike Pence too.
Oh.
You mean they don't
Do you
speak to each other?
in equal measure, or do you
Well, I won't reveal that. I just will tell you that I feel close to each of them.
Okay.
And have for a very long time. I was Mike Pence's pollster before he was tapped to be the vice presidential nominee and of course the president. I think they did fabulous things for this country together for 4 years. It was a nasty divorce in the end, but they need to find a responsible way to co-parent the future of the party and the conservative movement. And I certainly hope that they'll come together. It's funny, I never hear from either Trump or Pence an insult about the other. If anything, it comes from, as Donald Trump might say, quote, their people. And that's too bad. And I think people have all types of motivations to keep that schism in place. But I like to focus on all the great things they did for this country, because frankly, whoever runs for president as a Republican in the future, and whoever is the next Republican president in 2 short years, that person should really look at the Trump-Pence accomplishments, especially early on, as a model for governance.
Okay, one more from me. Can you?
There were a lot of accomplishments from the Trump-Pence administration. America was a whole different country, it feels like. Things were a lot more orderly. People had a lot more stability and security. And can we have that again? Would it be possible to bring the two together and reconcile and make America great again? Kellyanne Conway sort of prognosticates that maybe that is a possibility. We'll see. I wouldn't hold your breath on that one. I certainly am not. Now, we also have to check in with Bill Barr. Bill Barr, of course, was Donald Trump's former attorney general, and we have had some questions for him. Bill Barr is asked about the FBI. He was the attorney general in charge of the DOJ, which has a lot of oversight over the FBI. They work together on a lot of cases, and the question always was, will the FBI face any repercussions for what they have done? Has this been good for the FBI, bad for the FBI? All of the Trump-Russia collusion allegations, all of the investigations, the Michael Sussman saga, many cases we've talked about here. Mr. Barr, what is your take on the FBI's role for America?
Now, there's some section of the right and my Twitter followers who hope to see James Comey in an orange jumpsuit, and something like that was never going to happen. But do you think these cases that were brought against Michael Sussman and Igor Danchenko really got to the heart of the matter that Durham was investigating?
Well, I was hoping that there'd be accountability at the FBI, because I think the behavior of the leadership of the FBI during 2016 and the first part of 2017 has been catastrophic. Harmed the country. It was completely unfair to the president, and it has completely undercut the FBI. Mm-hmm. So I was hoping for accountability there. I don't agree that it would never happen. I just tried to explain to people that when you're going to charge, or in order to pursue a government official for a crime, when that official is performing their duties and doesn't do anything that is facially criminal, you need very strong proof of corrupt motives. Mm-hmm.
And they knew that, and that's why they did what they did. They just had plausible deniability the whole time. They could just work through all of these issues and say, oh, no, we were investigating election interference from Michael Steele, and the PP tape and dossier and the whole thing. We can just call it whatever we want. And then we can do whatever we want. And they just categorized it appropriately and then pursued it wherever it led them, which of course, conveniently, was to harm Donald Trump. None of these investigations ever exonerated Donald Trump. Where did any of these investigations ever lead to that took out a Democrat, right, that made their lives miserable? It was all one-sided very conveniently. And when it was Hillary who was under the microscope, James Comey comes out, changes the law. He says, oh, no. It wasn't grossly negligent, which would have led to criminal liabilities under the statute. It was extremely careless. He opened up a thesaurus. He's like, what's grossly negligent? How about extremely careless? That means it's not in the same statute. It's a different standard. We can't charge her with a crime. Who cares about her emails? Let's go raid Donald Trump's house instead.
Absent that, there wasn't going to be any case.
So you talked about this, you just said this terrible behavior of the FBI. Could you give me the short version of what it was, what they did?
Well, in July, before the election, they pounced on the flimsiest pretext on the idea that there was collusion between Trump and the Russians, which is something that the Clinton campaign was trying to rip up. That wasn't me copying. And they jumped on it. I don't think there was a predicate for them to do it, and they started this investigation of the campaign.
The Crossfire Hurricane investigation.
Crossfire Hurricane, and then they used what they should have known was a deeply flawed document, the so-called Steele dossier, to go and get a FISA application.
Deeply flawed. They did it on purpose.
And they ignored exculpatory information prior to the election. But I think the most serious activity happened after the election, when by that time it had become clear to them that the dossier was garbage, and they doubled down.
They did it anyways
on this case, and Comey announcing portentously to the Congress that he had Trump, the campaign under investigation. It throttled the administration, and I still believe that it's inexplicable behavior. It's hard to explain that.
It's not that hard to explain. They hate Donald Trump. They concocted the entire thing. Bill Barr gives him the benefit of the doubt here. Igor went over to Christopher Steele. They went over to Fusion GPS. They took it over to Michael Sussman. Michael Sussman, Perkins Coie, respectable lawyer. He met with Jim Baker over there at the FBI, who's now over at Twitter, right? The whole situation, it was a scam. A whole thing was a joke. They created it. They fictionalized this whole narrative because Hillary had the email saga, and they needed anything to change the story from that. So as soon as Jake Sullivan had this thing baked and ready to go, he announced it on Twitter and ran with this. Bill Barr says, well, they were sort of poking around. They maybe could have known it was bad or good, whatever. No, they knew. The whole thing was created. They didn't oh, surprise, this is an issue maybe we need to investigate. People made it up, and they shoved it and fed it to them, and the FBI was involved in it. And nobody was held accountable for it at all. Now, he says that's hard to explain why they did that. Not that hard to explain. You can take a look at Peter Strzok's text messages to his FBI lover, Lisa, and they're telling each other, oh, no, baby, we're going to take this guy out because he's going to ruin America, right? It's a joke. The FBI is corrupt. It should be defunded. But Bill Barr is an institutionalist. He will never say something like that, even if he knows it's corrupt, even if, as he says, it's catastrophic. Not that important. It's just something that, I guess is kind of, bad for the country, but it has to go on. Bill Barr is asked about the consequences. If the FBI is as corrupt as we all know it is, will there be any consequences? We know Michael Sussman didn't get a conviction. We know that all of the oversight that's been demanded by the GOP has been ignored. Bill Barr, many Americans are concerned about this. Will there be repercussions? Yes or no?
Do you think there has been any accountability for that?
No.
Do you think there will be any accountability?
Accountability in the sense of, criminal or civil penalties? No.
Even reputational damage? Some sort of accountability.
Well, the reputation in this country is largely under the control of the mainstream media, which likes to, overlook these kinds of sins. But I think the story will be told, And maybe in a more sober age, people will appreciate how destructive and damaging to the country this was. I also feel that Durham's case shows that the politicization doesn't necessarily stop at the top. Like most institutions in our country, like most agencies in the government, like many professional organizations, press, medical, science, it's being slowly politicized, these institutions.
Yeah, and unfortunately, when you were in charge, you didn't do much about that. In order to go and root out the FBI, go investigate them. We've got John Durham, who goes through a token series of prosecutions. Nothing comes of it. Bill Barr acknowledges no consequences. Yeah, it's a pretty bad problem for the country, but whatever. We'll just, I guess, move on. Nothing to pay attention to there. Donald Trump sues Tishy James. Kellyanne Conway wonders if there can be peace between Trump and Pence. And Bill Barr calls the FBI's actions catastrophic, but nothing will come of it. We'll, of course, continue to cover. Thank you for joining us as we do. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video wherever it is you're watching this, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, we're going to jump into our second segment, and we've got some legal heavy lifting to do on this one, but it's pretty enjoyable because Fauci is going to be sitting for some depositions, which is good news. A federal judge rules that... Start that over again. A federal judge rules that Fauci is going to be sitting for depositions. He ordered this some time ago, but the government was unhappy. They appealed it to the Supreme Court. They said, Judge, can we reconsider this, please? And Fauci is now ordered a second time. Unless the Court of Appeals comes in and interferes with this stuff, he's going to be sitting for a deposition. And in fact, the deposition is apparently scheduled for November 23rd, coming up right around the corner, which is going to be a lot of fun if it happens. But we've got several things to take a look at today in this segment. First, you can see three motions that we're going to sort of go through relatively quickly. The final order is what we're most concerned with. This is coming out from Judge Doughty. Judge Doughty says, hey, this is what I have decided, but I want to show you what came in before this was decided. The government requested a partial stay. We're going to go through this quickly. I'm going to explain why the government said we can't sit for depositions. It's going to be a huge problem. The judge already ordered this about 2 weeks ago, said, no, the depositions are appropriate. We read through all of that in prior videos, but the government responded on top of that and said, it's going to be a catastrophe. Jen Psaki's on the list. Fauci's on the list. Vivek Murthy's on the list. White House strategic communications people, they're all on the list. And they don't want to sit for depots. So the government responded. They said, can we have a partial stay on this? The whole world's going to die if we allow these people to be questioned because they're probably going to be found out to be giant liars. And we don't want that to happen. And so they submitted that to Judge Doughty. We'll read that. They also submitted what's called a writ of mandamus up to the Court of Appeals in the Fifth Circuit. So they're going to the current judge asking for a stay, and they're going to the Court of Appeals asking for a mandamus, which is an order from the higher court to the lower court telling them they can't conduct the depositions. So all of that is happening. Let's start at the top with the government's request for a partial stay. Anthony Fauci, Jen Psaki were ordered to sit for depositions, and the government is doing what they can to try to stop those from happening. You see that the defendants in this case, it's Joe Biden and everybody else who is listed in this lawsuit, including Fauci, Vivek Murthy, Jen Psaki, a whole number of other people don't want to sit for depots. And so they filed a motion for a partial stay, saying, Judge, can we just put this on hold? We are appealing this to the Court of Appeals, looking for a writ of mandamus, and we're asking you to stop this until we hear from them, right? Don't make us do these depositions. If they come back down and overrule you, then we would have done the depositions for nothing. So let's just put them on hold while the Court of Appeals rules on this thing, shall we? This was submitted. It's 13 pages, submitted on October 27th. I want to show you how it looks quickly before we take a look at the judge's response. They said the United States plans to file a petition for a writ of mandamus, which they did, because they say, we do not want depositions for three people. In particular, Vivek Murthy, Jen Easterly, and Rob Flaherty. as part of the preliminary investigations. They say this court's order would require high-ranking government officials to divert time, including General Murphy, Easterly, and Flaherty. All of that is being challenged in the Fifth Circuit. So they say this petition does not seek relief for Anthony Fauci, Psaki, or Elvis Chan. But they do expect that they'll ask for other people. The motion is distinct from a motion for a stay. Okay, so they want Vivek Murthy. It looks like Fauci, they're not even fighting in this mandamus, or at least in this case. They're not even fighting about Fauci. Regardless, they say, this court has broad discretion to stay the proceedings. Federal defendants will be irreparably harmed absent a stay, and we talked about that. And they also say that they have a likelihood of success on the merits. So they're filing all of this with the Court of Appeals. So I'd rather just go over to the Court of Appeals and show you what they're submitting. But they're making the argument here. Yeah, here they're seeking to quash Jen Psaki. So they're sort of going after them for different reasons. Here, defendants expect to move the Eastern District of Virginia to quash the deposition of Jen Psaki. So they're going into different jurisdictions and trying to sort of save different people for different reasons. Let's see if there's what they're doing with Fauci, because I didn't see him here. As discussed, defendants are prepared to make alternative witnesses available. Further, defendants are not objecting to depots of Fauci. That's interesting. I thought that they would be for sure, but maybe they're not. Okay, so let's go over to the writ of mandamus, because this is what they're actually relying on. Okay, this is with the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit. They've got Vivek Murthy, Jen Easterly, Rob Flaherty, all subject of this petition for a writ of mandamus. And so they're asking the lower court, don't let us do the depositions until the higher court makes a ruling on this. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on this document because this is 406 pages. This whole thing is 406 pages. It's ridiculous. But now they tell us the federal government respectfully requests that this court issue a writ of mandamus to vacate the lower level court. They don't want depositions for the Surgeon General. They don't want depositions for CISA. They don't want depositions for the White House. The suit was brought by the states, Missouri and Louisiana, saying that there was a conspiracy between the federal government and big tech corporations to censor materials. The government has complied with more than 15,000 pages of documents, and they've made Anthony Fauci available for deposition. But even this deeply flawed threshold must have a limit, they say. And they don't want the federal officials, the actual government officials, to have to testify. They say it would upend the process of resolving civil litigation. And so they move the district court for a stay of the order pending the resolution of the appeal. Right. So the rest of this is a big statement. It's a big document. As I said, it's over 400 pages. And let me just sort of scroll through this and show you what is in this puppy. It's a lot. You see the argument is still here. There's going to be all sorts of appendices. Let's see if we can sort of scroll down and see what else we've got here. Yeah, and they're actually looks like they're layering on a bunch of the record. So here, right, filings from 614, filings from, there's all the filings that apply. So it's a big, massive document, not all that interesting. Where all this is summarized is in this final order. And so I want to sort of fast forward through all of that and get to the final order so we can see what the judge actually ruled. In the case of Missouri versus Joe Biden suing the president for big tech collusion, the federal judge came out on November 2nd, issued the following order. He says, pending before this court is the government's motion. They don't want the depositions to happen. And let me lay out some background before I tell you that the motion for a partial stay is denied. In other words, the depositions are happening. Judge Doughty gives us some background. He says, on May 5th, the government sued the Biden administration. The states sued the federal government, is the better way to say that. In the complaint, the states say that Biden colluded and coerced social media companies to suppress disfavored speakers and to label content disinformation, misinformation, malinformation. They say that the Biden administration allowed for the suppression of free speech in violation of the Constitution. They have several examples of how that happened. One, Hunter Biden laptop story, lied about. Lab leak theory, lied about. Masks, lied about. Election integrity, lied about, they say. Or let's say not lied about, but colluded with. Okay, so they colluded with the big tech platforms on each one of these issues. Speech about election integrity and security, collusion. Censorship and suppression, collusion of many people. Jayanta Bhattacharya, Dr. Aaron Kiri, co-authors of the Barrington Declaration, censored. Jim Hoft, censored. Gateway Pundit, censored. Jill Hines, censored, right? Louisiana, Reopen Louisiana, Freedom Louisiana, all these people booted. Now, per this court's memorandum, the judge says that the court ordered the government, the Biden administration, to agree to participate in 8 depositions as part of this case. But then the government filed a response. They filed the writ of mandamus that I just showed you. They really don't want these depots to take place of Vivek Murthy, Easterly, and Flaherty. They also filed another motion asking for a stay in this case. Now, in this case, the judge lays out the law. He says, I've got broad discretion. I can stay proceedings if I want. Here's how I do it. I ask whether you're going to succeed on the merits. I have to ask myself this, says the judge. Are you going to win if you take this up on appeal? The court followed the correct standard, and he says that as to Surgeon General Murthy, he is a high-ranking official. That's true, but I'm not changing my opinion. He says there were exceptional circumstances, and the deposition is happening. Same thing with CISA director Jen Easterly. She had firsthand knowledge. She was the nerve center of the federally directed censorship. She directly flagged misinformation to social media companies. She stated that Americans and that social media speech allows CISA to police online speech, this woman. And so the court says, yeah, deposition, it's also happening for her. Same story with Rob Flaherty. He has specific knowledge about conversations with Meta and the disinformation dozen. He was sending emails back and forth. And so the court goes through the various factors and said, accordingly, it is hereby ordered that the federal defendant's motion for a partial stay is denied. So all of those individuals will be sitting for depositions, including Anthony Fauci. Looks like this is his order. Notice of video deposition for Anthony Fauci. He's been ordered by a federal judge to sit for a deposition at the following date and time. It's on November 23rd, 2022, 7 a.m. Eastern time, bright and early, even earlier if he's on the West Coast. But Anthony Fauci is ordered to sit for the deposition. It's going to be taken upon oral examination before a certified court reporter and a videographer. It shall be recorded stenographically and videotaped. The taking of the deposition, if not completed in one day, will take more than 1 day until it's done. A court reporter will be provided by the plaintiffs, which in this case is the state, and the deposition can be used for any reasons that are applicable under the law. They tell us that the witness is Anthony Fauci. The location, of course, because it's virtual, will be probably a Zoom meeting or something like that, which we do not get access to. But Anthony Fauci ordered to sit for a deposition, and it's going to be interesting to see if anything comes of that. This lawsuit is being brought by Eric Schmidt, the state of Missouri. And of course, we will continue to follow. I hope you join us as we do. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you are watching us. All right, my friends, and we've got one final segment on the day to wrap it up. It's election news, and it's like meltdown mode everywhere you look out there. We're just a couple days away from the big election day, and the Democrats not doing too well. Democrats in meltdown mode, major panic as they claim that the Republicans, if they win, they may kill your children. That's what they're saying over on MSNBC. We'll take a look at this guy. He's very, very animated about this. Before we turn over to Barack Obama, who says that if you vote, especially in Arizona, for people who have questions about how elections are run, you will literally be destroying his version of democracy. So we've got that before we check in with Biden and the deleted tweets from the White House. A lot of activity out there as they scramble, trying to throw the kitchen sink at the electoral process to see if they can win. MSNBC not having a good time in the prospects of a doomed election. We see this gentleman very upset, saying that if the Republicans win, it's very likely that we're going to be living in an autocratic state where Republicans murder your kids.
And a historian 50 years from now, if historians are allowed to write in this country, and if there are still free publishing houses and a free press, which I'm not certain of, but if that is true, a historian will say what was at stake tonight and this week was the fact whether we will be a democracy in the future, whether our children will be arrested and conceivably killed.
Whoa.
We're on the edge of a brutal authoritarian system, and it could be a week away.
Right around the corner. All your children, keep them locked up. Shout out to the youngest girlie. Hopefully, you're bracing for impact, because if the MAGA extremist Republicans go after anybody, it could very likely be the children. That's MSNBC. And can we just pause for a moment and give an ultra mega shout out to Beth Coddington in the house, who just donated 10 memberships, who gifted 10 memberships on YouTube. What? Farmer's Daughter's in the house. Shout out to Beth Coddington. We have a random person is a member. Miss Jamie's in the house. Maddie Adams. Jonathan Conklin became a member. Sarah Brown. Just My Opinions in the house. Bittersweet. Mary Jo Stevenson Fullen. Spencer King. Raul Ramirez. All just became YouTube members. Shout out to Farmer's Daughter for making that happen. What a generous thing to do. Thank you, Beth. But that's MSNBC absolutely melting down. Kids are going to be dropping dead all over the place. So good luck to the children out there. It's probably going to be a red wave coming up here. And so might be dead bodies all over the place. Could be trouble. Could be trouble out there. Okay, so MSNBC is having a meltdown. Barack Obama is basically doing the same thing. He sounds a little bit better, not quite as hysterical. Barack Obama says that if you vote for Republicans, especially in Arizona, you're probably signing the death warrant for America. I mean, his version of democracy is going to change if other people win. And he doesn't want that to happen at all.
Folks can win if we don't do our part. And if you've got election deniers serving as your governor, as your senator, as your secretary of state, as your attorney general, then democracy as we know it may not survive in Arizona. That's not an exaggeration.
Whoa.
That is a fact.
Democracy as we know it is going to die. Yeah. Well, I certainly don't know what his version of democracy is or what his idea of democracy is, but I think not everybody agrees exactly with it. If we're like, hey, can we just set everything aside and just run everything how Barack Obama wants it? And we'll just have his version of democracy and everything's good? No. How about no? Yes, that's the point, Barack. We don't want your version of democracy here in Arizona. We don't want what happened last time to happen again, where we all have questions about what the parties did during the election. We have questions about it, and the fact that we're voting and changing our own structure of government is democracy, is it not? So we don't automatically agree with him, and suddenly that's the end of democracy in America. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene is having fun with this. She is indulging this new talking point. When asked about what her speech is going to cover at a rally with Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene fully endorses the destruction of democracy meme that the Democrats are using to try to eke out a victory in the elections.
I know you've got a speech tonight. Let's kind of maybe preview some of that, or you want to hold it back and hold it. But what are you going to talk about tonight?
Well, actually, I'm going to talk about destroying democracy, because apparently Democrats are running on the fact that Republicans are destroying democracy. But you know what democracy is, Brian? Democracy is a government for the people and by the people. And it's really the Democrats who are destroying democracy. And so I'm excited to lay that out.
Yeah, but the Republicans are also going to kill your kids too. So she forgot that part too. So yes, destroying democracy. Hopefully she talks about murdering children in there as well, because that's what Republicans are doing now. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. Republicans are just terrible. But isn't that what we do here? I mean, I thought Marjorie, we're going to talk about destroying democracy. It's like, yeah, hello. We've been suspended several times for that reason here on YouTube. Destroying democracy, misinformation, all this crap, you know. It's like, I guess you just embrace it. You know, you just sort of accept it. Okay, yeah. We've accepted all of the other labels, I guess. You know, racist, bigoted, xenophobic, white, male, patriarchal, insurrectionist. Okay. Destroyer of democracy. All right, whatever. Whatever you say. Welcome to Watching the Watchers, where we just destroy democracy and insurrect America. Get your free podium. You know, it's like, what a joke. These people, like, it's hysterical. Relax. This dude is literally saying he's going to kill your kids. The Republicans are going to kill your kids. What's he telling his kids? Does he have daughters at home? Oh my gosh. All right. So speaking of killing your kids, Barack Obama finally acknowledges, yeah, crime's kind of a big problem, but it's not that big of a problem for us because we're the Democrats. I mean, it looks like it's bad now, but it's been bad for a long time anyways. And so you can't really blame us for it, can you?
Choice in this election, that's what this is all about. You hear the Republicans talk a lot about crime right now.
Yeah.
Now, violent crime has gone up.
Yes,
over
that's
the last
true.
7 years, by
He's
the
right.
way.
He's right
They
about
act
that.
like it just happened just last year. As if like the previous president wasn't there. And by the way, it didn't just happen in so-called blue states. Turns out it's gone up in conservative rural states too, where Republicans are in charge, but they don't mention that in the ads. So here's the question: who will fight to keep you and your family safe?
I don't know. Police, probably. Police, maybe. Law enforcement. Law enforcement. I mean, ordinarily, right? That his party wanted to defund. Yeah, that's traditionally who you look to, not the organizations that release everybody out on the streets and sort of reform the policies that cause a lot of the crime. But all right. So that's the president, former president, saying that Republicans are causing the crime, even though they've been in charge of everything for the last 2 years. Strange ordeal. But we have a speech from Joe Biden as well, speaking of elections, continuing to milk everything humanly possible out of the alleged Paul Pelosi attack with a hammer at his house. Biden is now saying it's very analogous to the J6 attacks because they said that very scary phrase, "Where's Nancy?"
All this happened after the assault. And it just, it's hard to even say.
It is true. It's hard for him to say.
It's hard to even say. After the assailant entered the home asking, "Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?" Those are the very same words used by the mob when they stormed the United States Capitol on January the 6th.
Can you believe that?
When they broke windows, kicked in the doors, brutally attacked law enforcement, roamed the corridors, hunting for officials. And erected gallows to hang the former Vice President, Mike Pence.
To hang him.
It was an enraged mob that had been whipped up into a frenzy by a president repeating over and over again the big lie.
Where's Nancy? Where's Nancy?
That the election of 2020 had been stolen. It's a lie that fueled the dangerous rise in political violence and voter intimidation over the past 2 years.
Where's Nancy? I thought that's what he was going to say. Trump was saying, "Where's Nancy?" So a home insurrection of Nancy Pelosi's house is literally exactly like the J6 insurrection. Okay, I was being facetious about that a couple days ago when I was like, Nancy Pelosi can't even protect both houses. She can't even protect the Capitol building. She can't protect her own house. And now he's saying it's true. It's true. It's literally insurrectionary behavior in both. If you walk around and you say, "Where's Nancy?" If somebody shows up to a lunch, you know, and he doesn't bring his wife, you're like, "Hey, where's Nancy?" He's like, "Whoa, you're insurrectionary." So, okay, well, that's what's going on now. Two things completely unconnected, seemingly connected for political purposes. That's what we've got out of the White House. Now, you may have seen this previously. The White House actually posted a tweet that looked just like this, because this is a screenshot of it. They said that seniors are getting the biggest increase in their Social Security checks in 10 years. Why? through President Biden's leadership. Wow, that's amazing. President Biden's a great leader. Unfortunately, the White House had to delete the tweet because it made him look like a bunch of idiots. Here is what The Hill reports. They say the White House deletes a tweet giving Biden credit for Social Security. Why is this? Well, Twitter added context below the tweet, noting that the increase was due to the annual cost of living adjustment as part of a 1972 law that tied automatic benefit adjustments to the consumer price index. Oh, yeah. Which is a key marker of inflation. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said the tweet was not complete. Usually when we put out a tweet, we post it with context. It did not have that context. That's why she said they removed it. Oh, yeah, because they removed it for context. Yeah. Unfortunately, nobody buys that story. So that's the White House. Now, we also have Joe Biden, our last clip of the segment here. Joe Biden is, it's this weird deal. The president is supposed to deliver messages of hope and optimism. The country can do anything, anytime, anywhere if we set our minds to it, unless it's counting election votes. That takes some time. President Biden acknowledging we've got to be patient for some reason.
We want Americans to vote. We want every American's voice to be heard. Now we have to move the process forward. We know that more and more ballots are cast in early voting or by mail in America.
Okay.
We know that many states don't start counting those ballots till after the polls close on November 8th. That means in some cases we won't know the winner of the election for a few days, until a few days after the election.
Okay.
It takes time to count all legitimate ballots.
Why are you telling us this?
In a legal and orderly manner.
Why are you telling us that, Joe? Does anybody have a problem with counting the votes? Very curious. Very curious. It's kind of like, it reminds me of those people that you have meetings with or group projects with, and they preface the fact that they didn't do their homework with a stupid statement like this. You know, like there's a lot, it's going to be good. Like it's all going to work out. It's all going to be fine. It's going to finish. I'll get it done, but I just couldn't do it because of this. And there's extenuating circumstances. So very strange. Now, it seems bizarre that we have to constantly live in a state of flux about what the results are of our elections, but maybe that's just by design. Democrats in panic mode. Of course, the election is right around the corner. We will continue to cover it. Thank you for hitting that like button for us before you get out of here. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends. That is it for us on the segments today. I saw some super chats come in. Thank you very much for those. We'll get to those in a minute. We got Tishy James being sued by Donald Trump. A lot of fun. Bill Barr says, no, nothing's going to happen to the FBI, but I'm starting my retirement. I think he's starting a law firm, actually. Fauci is sitting for depositions, the government trying to stop some other entities from being subpoenaed, and Democrats in panic mode, actually saying that the Republicans, if they win, they're going to kill your children, which is weird. I mean, I never heard that as part of the policy proposal. But my friends, thank you for, oh yes, perfect. Thank you for getting us over 1,000 likes on the stream today. I'm grateful for you. Very nice of you. Thank you. And thank you for just my opinion in the chat. And for others in the chat, helping us to get over that threshold. Very generous of you. But let's take a look now at what you have to say over on those super chats. And we're going to do a quick refresh over here. And thank you, everybody, for your support on the program. And thank you once again to Beth Coddington. Beth Coddington with a very generous gift of memberships. Also says, seriously, Rob, you make us laugh at all the atrocities and make it bearable. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Well, thank you, Beth. Beth, we missed you so much. Beth joined, Beth's on Locals too, and Beth joined the chat, the after party Locals chat yesterday. And the crowd went wild. We all love Beth. Beth has been around for a while. She's Farmer's Daughter over on Locals. Very generous, Beth. We love that you're here. Thank you for all of your generosity over the years. And thanks for bringing some new people in on our YouTube members. Very, very nice of you. Very cool. All right. And let's see what else came in, my friends. We're going over. Bruce Rice was in the house, starting us off at the show this morning, at the start of the program today. Let's see what we had here from Bruce. He says, Hey, Mike Pence, I like hammers. You like hammers. World Health Organization was the first to scream hammer. Play the cam. Clapper tells all. From Bruce Rice. Thank you, Bruce Rice, for the super chat. I'm not sure what cam you're playing, but I think maybe the Pelosi cam, because you're using the word hammer. I'm not real sure about that. Thank you, though. Bruce Rice, we've got random person with a nice super chat in there. Thank you, random person. No question on that one. Bruce also said, Kamala, was that Venn diagrams or Howard Zinn diagram, or was that just the perception? Well, yeah, Kamala, we talked about the Venn diagram yesterday. Howard Zinn, right? He's the author who wrote The History of America. Another one from Bruce Rice. Thank you, Bruce. And yeah, Kamala likes, what was the one? Incapable, incompetent, inconsequential Kamala Harris, right in the middle of the Venn diagram. Molly Dolly's in the house, says, what will stop Dr. Fauci from just pleading the fifth? Can Trump just plead the fifth at his depots? I heard a headline today about Trump settling with Tish James. Is that true? I agree with Trump suing Tish in order to stop her abuse. So these are civil depositions. And so it's, I mean, yes, I think theoretically they could invoke their Fifth Amendment anytime, right? You can always do that unless sort of they grant you immunity. But I don't know that we're going to see. I'm trying to think about Letitia James when Trump because Trump had two depots with her, right? And he invoked for one and he did not invoke for another. And I can't remember the distinction between the two. So my point in telling you that is that there are reasons why they might talk and there are reasons why they may not talk. Fauci sounds like he's still on for a depo. And honestly, I didn't see anything that he was challenging the depo. So now the settlement. So I did see on this one, Molly Dolly, what I do know about that other case is Trump posted something on True Social about this. Apparently a judge issued a special or like an oversight individual. See, we're on. Yeah. Okay, so here, let me share this with you as soon as this reloads. Every time I need something, of course, is when it will take a minute to reload. Of course, that's what's happening right now. So we're over on Trump posted an update on the Letitia James situation on True Social. Here's what he said. He said, a puppet judge of the New York Attorney General and other sworn enemies of Trump and the Republican Party just issued a ruling never foreseen anywhere in America. And this is about, I believe the judge appointed sort of an outside third party to monitor the Trump organization. Kind of nuts. And Trump, I think, is responding to this. He said, it is communism come to our shores. Businesses will be fleeing New York, which they already are, for other states and other countries. Today's ridiculous ruling by a politically motivated handpicked judge makes it even more vital for courts in both New York and Florida to do the right thing and stop this inquisition. We have to fight back against radical tyranny and save our country. Okay, so, the lawsuit that he filed, I think, came before that, but it is still, he's facing like a legal onslaught from all over the place. It's really, really a lot. And so that was, Molly Dolly. I don't think that was the settlement. I think that was the judge who issued the order. So I'm not sure that there was actually a settlement there. But he's got so many things going on. It's honestly hard to keep track. Most of what I've been focusing on is the criminal stuff, or when he files, spicy lawsuits. Beth Coddington, seriously, Rob, you make us laugh. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Beth. Very generous of you. I saw a couple more come in. Let's do a quick refresh on this screen. And then, of course, we'll go over to the after party over on Locals. But I saw, a couple came in here. Let me see if I can pull them up this way now. Yes, Playing Hookie's in the house. Playing Hookie says, with all the red wave, should be an action-packed next few months. Yeah, that's from Playing Hookie, and I think that is an astute observation, Playing Hookie. Locals is dead, says Vienticus. Okay, well, that's just great. All right, so we'll have to do a new stream. Locals went out. Perfect. Okay. We'll do a new stream. No problem at all. So here, with all the red wave, should be an action-packed next few months. And I'm thinking about that, Playing Hookie. Like, we're going to see, I think, some serious serious litigation taking place, especially if anything is even remotely close. It will be spicy, no doubt about it. Now let's see. Here, I'm trying to fix that so we can see that a little bit better. That's a little bit better. All right, so thank you, Playing Hooky. A lot of litigation. Remember, we did this when, after 2020, we covered all the litigation. I think we avoided strikes somehow. Don't know how we did that for the election stuff. We had one election misinfo strike, one medical misinfo strike, and then one warning, and then one medical misinfo strike got reversed, and our latest strike got reversed. So we've had several strikes. But we've navigated it before previously, and I think we can probably do it again. So thank you for that dono, Playing Hooky. Beth Coddington says, are you still doing monthly Zoom meetings? We're not doing those monthly Zoom meetings. We had to wrap those up. We had some nefarious actors who were partaking in the Zoom meetings, and so we had to stop those. But Beth, I do miss those, and I do miss seeing you all bundled up there, all cozy and warm and just smiley. You're just the best. We'll have to think about that again in the future, but it's but no, we're not currently doing them. It's sort of, as the community grew, it became kind of a lot to bring people live on camera, and then I can't actually sort of vet who is who on cameras, and you know how that can get. We have John McGarvey says, hey Rob, curious, do you have any plans for Sunday? I don't think so. Although I think I do have some plans now that you mention it. I don't think that they're set like 100% in stone, but I think that I am. Let me double check, make sure it's Sunday. Yes. I think on Sunday night, I think I'll be hanging out with Legal Mindset. I think that's what's going to be happening. Going to go swing over to his channel for an election stream preview. I think we're going to do that. Yeah, I think is that what you're talking about? Hopefully that's what you're talking about, John McGarvey, because I think that's what I'm doing. He says, yep, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, so we were going to do that, and I think he's doing like all sorts of streams, right? He's also going to do all day Tuesday, all night election night Tuesday. Yeah, okay. So he gave me some options. Legal Mindset's awesome. Okay, he gave me some options. He's like, hey man, like I'm available. Here's what you need, and like awesome. So yes, Sunday I'm gonna go hang out with Legal Mindset for sure. And then honestly, I think on Monday, like we're gonna have some good stuff coming up. We're gonna do Legal Mindset on Sunday, and then on Monday we've got Garrett Ziegler from Marco Polo who's gonna come on the show. I think 7 o'clock on Monday. 7 p.m. our time Monday, which is like, so the show might be a little bit later on that day. Yeah. So we're trying to do a little bit more interactive stuff, go hang out with people. I want to invite them on here, and Ziegler is going to come on Monday, and I'm excited about it. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Thanks for asking about that, John. Yeah, I didn't mention that, and I should have. I wasn't sure on the time, but yeah, because Legal Mindset, he's in Korea, which is so cool. So that'll be fun. So actually we might do like a late show. Maybe we'll do something on Sunday too. I haven't decided yet, but it's election season. There's so much to attend to. So we just have to get it all in if we can, get as much in as we can. Kelly was also here with a nice super. Thank you for that, Kelly. Let me see if I can pull that one up. Yeah, there that one is. Super chat from Kelly, 1387. Thank you very much, Kelly. Very nice and generous of you. And let's give some shout outs over to the Rumble crowd. And we're also on Facebook, but I had a Facebook problem. I need to get some Facebook mods or something. I think I had a spam problem yesterday. Yeah, anyway, so shout out over to our Rumble community. Let's take a look and say thank you to everybody in the chat. We've got Isle Paint, Dr. Uriism, Army Brats in the house, along with Don't Be Hatin', Nexit 2020, Anything is over there. Eric Scorpio. We've got Cat Crap Fever, along with many others. Shout out to Vienti Kiss, Lil Galaxies in the house, Elaine Watkins, and others. And so if you're over on Locals, you can certainly go check that out. I'm sorry, on Rumble. Go hang out in that chat. Apparently our locals chat is just, it's just not functional today. So that's just great. That's just great. It's not the chat's fault. It's the locals' fault. I'm going to have to talk to them and figure out what that's all about. But yeah, it's been a little bit problematic, hasn't it? Paul Minot says locals is chopped liver. Shout out to Paul Minot. In the YouTube chat, Zach Nichols says, I believe. Vienticus says locals went the way of the dodo. Says, this one came in from Ty. Says, Robert, if nothing else, go out there and prove that they're not doing that to prove that the world knows it's wrong. On McGinnis says, locals is actually gaining traction lately. Yeah, locals is doing cool stuff. And yeah, and locals is working closely with Rumble. And I forgot to mention this at the start of the show, but as of tomorrow, we're going to be incorporating some sponsors into the program. That's right. We're going to do some like little adverts kind of interspersed. And so you probably love it because you know how badly you need these services. I mean, they are going to be like game changers for you. And so it's going to be fun to see how I can do that tomorrow and incorporate these things. But I'm very excited about it. We talked a little bit more about this with the locals crew yesterday and sort of explained sort of what I have envisioned a little bit for the next future chapter of what this show is and what this show becomes, because we're just getting started, baby. And I'm very excited to learn a lot more about all this stuff. But yeah, we'll have some sponsors tomorrow and I'll be interested in your feedback and how you think it goes. We had Kelly says, do you ever think we're going to get the same day election results ever again? I would hope so. But I'm not sure that anybody really wants that. I think the power structure sort of likes to live in the gray area. A lot of people make their money in the gray, right? It's the gray area that works. Things that are black and white, things that just work right, they just work. You don't really need to have a whole lot of fuss about them. But there's a lot of people who get very rich and secure a lot of power by keeping things mucked up. And probably that is both parties, really. I don't know. I'm very cynical about the elections based on basically everything that we've covered here on this channel. Very cynical about them because I've seen it, and everybody makes the same arguments. It's just kind of it sort of feels like it's a nice little it's like a seatbelt on an airplane, right? Yeah. It makes you feel good and it's nice and fun and everything like that. But I mean, if the pilot is going to, crash into the side of a mountain, it's just going to happen. There's not much you can do about it. Yeah. And Vientica says life is murky. What happened to all the real conservatives? This one came in from E. Garza. What happened to all the lifelong Republicans, real conservatives like Lincoln, Nixon, and Bush? I don't know what happened to all of them. It's a good question. Omnigma says, even if Republicans win, I would worry they will stick Antifa and BLM on the public. Yeah, I'm not very optimistic about the Republicans winning either. You have Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell in charge of Congress. What are they going to do? Realistically, not a whole lot. All right, my friends, we are going to leave it there. We're going to go back over to locals for our after party and figure out what the heck happened there. There are some comments over there, which we will, of course, attend to. I do see the comments, but we do have to get the live stream back up and rolling over there. But that, my friends, is it for us. If you do want to join up over on locals, come check us out over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Also, you can sign up and become a member on YouTube. Click the join button right next to the subscribe button. Get a lot of the same stuff. We have our law firm. Thank you so much for keeping ears open, pointed, like, one of those animals that can move their ears every which way. 360 degrees. If you hear of anybody in the state of Arizona who's been charged with a crime, we can help. We offer free case evaluations. We have an amazing team. R&R Law Group. We help good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope, not only in their cases, but beyond that, in their lives. Free case evaluations online, 480-787-0394, online at rrlawaz.com. Links are in the description below. We really want to help, right? If we can't help you with something, we'll tell you that. We'll send you on your way. We'll give you a book. We'll give you some resources. We'll do whatever we can. But if it's not the right fit, it's not the right fit. No big deal. If we can help, let's do it. You know, there's a lot that we can do to help. DUIs, drugs, domestic situations, anything and everything in between. 480-787-0394. All right, my friends. I also want to thank the mods who mod down the fort for us. Big shout outs go to Vientikis Prime, K Bean in the house. I see Just Cause over there, says I'm voting against Mitch McConnell. Shout outs to Lean. I didn't see Lean here today, but we've got Playing Hookies over there, says good night, and says, I hope Lean is heading this way. Yeah, it's the same thing. I was wondering where the hell's Lean. Shout outs to Ronnie Cole. Zulu's in the house. Zulu says, if it ain't facile, I want no part of the paradigm. Well, there you go. Yeah, don't want it. Geo swung by. Make sure you support Geo, and shout outs to our friend Henry Dixon. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We are going to go right over to locals for the after party. Otherwise, we're going to be right back here tomorrow to do it all again. It's election season, so thank you for inviting your friends and family to come join us to get some of that nice energy. Make sure that we're doing our parts to save America. Even if it's going to be a long road, we have our duty to partake in it. And so we are going to be back here to do it all again tomorrow. I hope you join us so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Have a tremendous evening, my friends. Sleep very well. See you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.